Hello and welcome to the Flying Gato YouTube channel. My name is Elias, and in today's video we're going to go over why I think everyone should own a radar detector. Specifically, if you live in North America and drive on these beautiful roads, you should really own a radar detector. I'm going to tell you exactly why in this video. I'm going to tell you what I recommend, how I installed mine, specifically in my Honda Civic Type R. And if you have a red sports car like I do, you should really get a radar detector, but we'll go into that a little bit. I want to show you guys the positives, the negatives, and really kind of how to use one, because it's not just a plug and play and go and it'll protect you forever. It doesn't work that way. So if you like these kind of videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button down there, hit the like button if you like these things and you find it useful, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything, because, you know, God knows I'm always learning. All right, guys, let's go ahead, show you guys what's going on, and get started. Before we go into the nitty-gritty details, a little bit of background. I've been using radar detectors since I started driving. Basically since I was 15 years old. This is a long time ago now. In my old 1990 Civic wagon, I had installed my first radar detector, and I started learning about them since then. This is around 2001, 2002 time frame-ish, maybe 1999. One of those years is when I started driving. And I learned a lot. I used a really crappy old one I started out with. And then I bought the top of the line Escort in 2007. And I still own that one, actually. I still have that one. It still works. I still use it, but there are a lot of limitations on it, and it's not my favorite one to use, but we'll get to all that technical stuff later. I want to go through some frequently asked questions that I get asked along the way a lot. And the first question is owning and using a radar detector even legal? Well, it depends on where you are. In Virginia, for example, it is illegal to use a radar detector. And so I would be careful about having one on or leaving it on as you drive through the state of Virginia, because if you get caught with it, there's a fine and it gets kind of annoying. I don't agree with the fact that Virginia outlaws it, but there it is. They also tried to outlaw it nationally by saying that radar detectors can mess with radio waves, etc. And the FCC tried to shut down radar detectors, you know, in the name of law. And they couldn't, right? What you cannot do is jam radar detector on the radio side. Now, if you guys know anything about law enforcement, they use laser detectors as well. They're called LiDAR, and that's using light waves to figure out what speed you're doing, and they're very, very accurate and really, really quick in ascertaining your speed. You can jam laser detectors because it was ruled in a Supreme Court decision, actually, that laser lights is not really a wave. It's not really a radio wave. If you guys know anything about physics, light is actually both a radio wave and a particle at the same exact time. That's kind of cool, just a little tidbit for you guys to know. Very nice. And so, knowing that, it's not illegal in most areas. I do know Virginia, New York City, and certain municipalities, you know, have laws against them, but in most of the country of the United States, it is legal to use. I don't know about Canada. Canada sucks as a country for laws anyway. They have too many laws. They restrict everything, so it's probably not legal there for all I know, but definitely not anywhere else in the United States. The second question I get is, if it's beeping, is it always a cop? Like, do you just know, like, hey, if it's beeping, slow down, take it easy, it's always a cop? And the answer is no. It actually depends on what kind of beep it is, where it is, the situation that you're in, where you are. There's a lot of things that go into the knowledge that this radar detector gives you. Do radar detectors exist? And the answer is yes. Radar detectors exist. Now, I'm not too well versed as to exactly how that works. I don't know why this emits something that can be detectable, but it does. And so there's a lot of radar manufacturers that make sure that your radar is not detectable. And the one I have, I think, is not supposed to be detectable by a radar detector. But yes, Those exist. I didn't know that until I actually looked it up, because a lot of people were asking me, hey, can police detect that? Question number 3 is, if police pull you over and they see your radar detector, are they always going to give you a ticket? And in my experience, I've experienced this quite a lot throughout my years. Actually, in the last 10 years, I haven't really been pulled over. I have not gotten a ticket at all in the last 10 years. But from 15 to 26, 27, I was pulled over 30 times because I was an idiot. Radar detectors always helped me not get into too much trouble. I never really got into too much trouble. I never paid a moving violation, actually, driving my Honda Prelude all around the East Coast. So that goes to show you radar detectors work, but you still get pulled over every once in a while. With the FAQ out of the way, let's take a look at my setup here. So this is my Uniden R8. I really like this Uniden R8 units. It's really good. If you want a little bit more budget-minded, I actually recommend everybody to get the Uniden R7. The R7 is basically the same thing as this. It's got a few less features. It's a little bit on the older chassis. It's not a big deal. I like the R7 a lot. It's a lot less expensive, but if you, for a couple of $100, or like $100 more, you get the R8, the newer chassis. It's got the newer electronics. It's a little bit faster, and it's got a few more features like auto sensing, etc. And I always like to have the latest, because with radar detectors, the best thing is to have filtering for blind spot monitoring systems. All these cars these days come with blind spot monitoring systems, and it's, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the little yellow lights that come up here when you're driving and there's a car next to you. Little yellow lights there, that's a radar sensor, effectively, from the mirror to the rear taillights. It's emitting radar, and it sets these things off, especially the older ones. So if you have an old radar detector, it'll be ringing like crazy for forever, right? So I have an old Escort, and that thing, anytime there's a Mazda, a Cadillac, all of these things set off the K-band. And we'll get to the K-bands again towards the end of the video. They're not as important as knowing how to set them up. I really like setting up these radars through the back here, installing it almost like permanently, and using the rear view mirror as a base. I'll put the links in the description below, so where you can get these brackets for your specific car. For Civics, obviously, this is a very Civic specific one, but this works for basically any car that was built after 2005, 2006, and they work really well. And it's connected via this right here, which actually I used the internal lights up here. There's lights that turn on in here when you open the door. And so whenever I open the door, my radar detector turns on because it gets power from the dome lights. Again, this is very specific to the Civics, the 11th gen Civics, but pretty much any car that you own, you kind of know, you open the door, these lights turn on. And if you want your radar detector to turn on when that happens, you use that cable there. Again, links are going to be in the description below. But that's how I have mine set up, and it's really simple and out of the way. I don't have any cables running down to the console. Everything is kind of free and clear, and I can press the mute button here whenever I wanted to. And there's a mark button here because this unit has GPS. And if I want to mark something like a door, or I know an area that just has K-bands, automatic door openers use radio waves to open the doors, and that'll make these ring. You mark it on GPS, and then it won't beep at you as you pass the supermarket, let's say, every single time. This right here mutes it when you're passing a Civic, or not a Civic, or it's usually a Mazda that sets these off as well. You can just mute it, so because there's a Mazda next to you, and it's not a police officer. And so that's how I use mine. I love this setup right here. Again, all the links are in the description below. So a little pull here. It's always fun to do that in this car. Now, as we set off here, there's a few other recommendations that you can see for radar detectors. Again, the Uniden's really nice. Escorts, the top of the line ones, I believe that they're called the 360s. They're also very good. Valentine 1 has always been an excellent radar detector. I really like the ones that have directional. They show you where the radar is coming from, because that's really helpful. So if I make one recommendation for buying one, is make sure you buy one that has the little arrows that tell you where that radar signal is coming from. Because it's coming from behind you and you're driving forward and it's getting weaker, you don't have to worry about it. If it's coming from in front of you and it's getting stronger, I would start thinking about it. Now, if it's coming from behind you and getting stronger, it's usually, probably a police officer with a radar on, going pretty fast, so also watch out. It's just really useful to see and know. Also, as you pass by grocery stores and supermarkets, you'll get, K-band usually marked left and right, and it'll show you, hey, you're getting K-band from the left, K-band from the right, and so hey, that's that door over there, not a big deal. And so, now that we have that out of the way, I do want to say kind of a disclaimer here. I am in no way condoning speeding on public roads. Everyone knows 5 or 10 miles per hour over the speed limit on public roads is not a big deal. And when there's a desolate farm road that no one gets on, every once in a while doing a little pull, you're not going to hurt anybody basically but yourself. There's usually tractors you have to watch out for in this area. But if you're on the highway with lots of people, I would be very careful. You don't want to hurt other people. That's a really wrong thing to do. It's not their fault that they're on the road. They're just trying to get things done. Most people Most people actually don't really enthusiastically enjoy driving. They just do it because they have to. And so, if you want to enjoy high-speed driving, there's 2 different places for you to do it. One is called a drag strip, if you want to see how fast your car can go in a straight line, and then the other one is a road course. I love road courses. You can go to the STCA, Sports Car Club of America. It's my favorite organization. I am a part of it. And they do a really great job of making sure you find a good, safe area to push your car to the limits. The reason I still recommend everybody to own a radar detector is because we all know, especially in these smaller villages, especially in New York. I lived in New York for quite a while, and when you're driving through rural New York, you go from a 55 mile an hour zone to a 25 mile an hour zone, and there's like maybe 100 feet of notice, and so you're not paying attention. There's a cop up ahead, just waiting for you. We call these speed traps, and they're gonna give you a ticket. Even if you go 5 or 10 over the speed limit on those rural areas, they're going to give you a ticket. And that's really annoying to me, and I don't agree with that at all. That's a way to collect tax money from other people that are passing through to feed your municipality. I'm not a fan of that at all. Speed traps are everywhere though. They're all over the United States. And so that's one big reason to use these. Also, we know in desolate areas with long highway stints, the speed limit may be 80 or 70 or 75, but there's no one around at all. There's no animals, there's no trees. If you go to Arizona, there's just like a long straightaway. You could do 120 miles an hour there, and you probably still get bored because it's just going in a straight line. It's always good to have one of these just to make sure you're not gonna get that stupid ticket that you really don't deserve. Again, if you're doing dangerous things, you deserve to be locked up. You shouldn't be endangering people's lives on the public roads. But there's ways to have fun with your car, and then there's ways to travel in a quick manner that's safe. This is gonna help you do all of that and avoid getting a cop to pull you over and give you that speeding ticket. It's always uncomfortable when that happens. So in this part of the video, we're going to talk about how I use, or how I recommend you guys use your radar detector. So I'm merging onto the highway here. We're going to see this thing start beeping and making all kinds of noises. What you heard there was the car, not the radar detector. So on the highway is the main time when you're going to be using this thing a lot, and it's going to feed you information. And so when you're on a long stretch of highway driving, you want to take a look at your surroundings. Police are usually going to be in clearings where they can hide from basically far away. So usually when there's curves or dips that they can hide behind, that's a good indication that there might be a police officer. Since this thing is not beeping, I'm certain there's no police officers with a radar gun on their vehicle. So I know there's no radar detector on. However, it doesn't mean that there's no cops ahead. They could just be sitting and waiting and wanting to see what's passing them by. So, for example, when it's nighttime and there's not much traffic around, it's important to notice that police will usually turn their radars off, and when they see a headlights or taillights, they'll turn them on to see how fast you're going. So keep that in mind. This is not foolproof as I get pelted by bugs. One of the biggest negatives of living in North Florida here. So this thing hasn't beeped yet, and that's because it's got really good filtering. So it knows we're on the highway and automatically set itself to highway mode. In highway mode, it filters out a lot of the X band, but it gets the most sensitive to K and KA band. I guess it's time to talk about bands. So in KA band, it's almost always, and for example, that was the police over there, a trooper was just parked over there with no radar gun on. So this is by no means a police detector. This is just to detect when radar is on and it may be pointed at you. And so again, KA band is almost always an indication of a police radar gun, and it is the most common radar used today on the highway. So if you see a KA band and you're on the highway and the arrow points forward, I'm going to pause here because this tells me front K band, and it's getting stronger and stronger as we move forward. K band is less often used, but still used by law enforcement. Now this is getting stronger and stronger as I move forward, indicating to me that there might be either, now it turned into KA band. So now I have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to go into the middle lane and let the faster cars by, because I might have somebody in front of me, a police officer in front of me with KA band / K band. And so this is a perfect example. This is why I wanted to get you guys, to see this, how I use this information. It doesn't always mean that there's a police officer ahead, but KA band, I tend to say, I'll go 5 or 10 over speed limit. If I'm going, 15 to 20 over, I'll slow it down. This is continuing to get stronger and stronger. Again, an indication that there is a police officer ahead. Now it gets stronger and weaker, so maybe he's just up ahead and he's actually on the highway with me. That's what the information is giving me. Now I'm giving you guys a real life example of how I use this. So here we go. It's getting stronger and stronger. It means I'm catching up to him. Or maybe he stopped on the side of the road waiting for speeders to pass him by. Let's have a look. At this point, I'm fairly certain that this is a police officer up ahead. So I'm on the lookouts. I have reduced my speed to, I'm doing 7 over the speed limit. They're not going to bother with that in this area. And again, it's all area dependent. Here we go. So this is very strong KA band. And there we go. So at this weigh station, there is a state trooper pointed at us, seeing what speeds we're doing. Very interesting. And so this is, again, a tool that I use to figure out where the police are so I'm not caught speeding. And again, I don't condone speeding, I don't condone going crazy, but we all know we're on the highway. We want to do 85 miles an hour usually. That's pretty comfortable. I'm behind a truck doing 80 basically. That's not a bad speed behind a big truck. And if I were to do a really nice speed, it would be 85 to 90. Fairly safe. All these cars are capable of doing it, and everyone effectively does it. I just don't want to get caught doing it. And so that's where the radar detector comes in handy. So right here, it's showing me there's a front K band. I think that front K band is coming from this Volvo here. This Volvo ahead of me, I believe also triggers the front K band. And the way I know is that if I get farther away from it, it will stop beeping. And as I get closer, it starts beeping again. Let's see if I can get it done. There it is. And the arrows kind of show left, right. They don't know where it's coming from because it's bouncing from the walls. So that's kind of how you know whether, or not a vehicle is giving you false positives. So let's close this out. I hope you guys found this video useful, and if you did, again, hit that like button, and if you want these type of videos more often, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well. In conclusion, do I recommend everybody to have a radar detector? Obviously, yes. That's the title of the video. And I gave you the reasons why. The negatives I have already talked about. Yes, they can be detected, and in some places they are illegal. And they're not the end-all, be-all for knowing when you're going to get a ticket. It is a tool, a useful tool to figure out if and when there's a police officer ahead, and you could use that tool to figure out when to slow down or when to do your hooligan type of activities. Because even on this deserted road, if there's a police up ahead, I may not be really hurting anybody if I'm going fast, but if he's around, he's going to give me a ticket. So let's avoid that. All right, guys, I'll close it up here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.